are joined by Clint Younge, MMJ Canada. Thanks, man.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. Very good.
Lots and lots of things to talk about 2018, but before we do that,
Sure.
I want to focus a little bit on your story and how you got involved in the industry and where that kind of took place in terms of, your advocacy work.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it was a little bit of a unique process for me. About 8 years ago, I was sitting in a mental health treatment program. I had suffered with severe PTSD and a lot of psychosis damage due to drug abuse and a certain traumatic scenario that happened when I was a child.
Right.
So 8 years ago, I went into the treatment program for I think it was an 8-month treatment program, and I kind of reinvented myself.
Wow.
And after graduating the treatment program, I started doing advocacy work around Hamilton that had nothing to do with cannabis, just kind of helping out at soup kitchens, stuff like that. Fast forward 2 years later, I was just kind of not happy in Hamilton anymore, and
right.
I had made a joke to my fiance at the time that if I could just get into the cannabis industry, I could probably change the way people view it. And she just laughed at me, and we both made a joke, and, and I went downstairs, and then that was it. So I started 5 years ago at the Green Cross, where I met Eric Burris, and he taught me about integrity over greed, which was a very, very crucial kind of value that I've kind of kept close to my heart.
Right.
Because in this industry, you see a lot of people who are kind of very focused on the monetary side of things, right?
Yeah.
After my stint at the Green Cross, I went on and took a manager position at the Healing Tree, which was a very challenging experience for me with personalities. It was something that had taught me kind of resilience.
Right.
And
you started as a bartender, and then you went on to manage, and then you ended up here.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and then I went on to as a director of operations, and then for actually a friend of mine, Jonas, there.
Right.
And then I took the role as company liaison and brand ambassador for the Village Dispensary, who is also CAMCD. And then I was on my way home and to kind of do it on my own and bring it back to Hamilton, and MMJ Canada had 2 stores and said, hey, why don't you be the CEO? We like the work you've done.
So fast forward those times that you learned about advocacy, working with people that maybe need cannabis as a medical option. I mean, there's a lot of compassion there.
Yeah.
How is the industry evolved in terms of stigma and working with that type of society?
That's a challenging question, I guess. To me, it's people using cannabis for mental health, right? And all of these things, there's stigmas all over right now, right? And 5 years ago it was even worse, right? But now it's kind of being removed, right? But the more that you educate people on mental health and cannabis and proper ways to dose cannabis with mental health, there's times where you shouldn't have any psychoactive component in your cannabis, depending on what's going on with you inside you. There's times where you need THC. There's times where you need low THC. There's times where you just need pure CBD. It is, as long as the education and the word is getting out to the public, I find that not only is the communities around cannabis starting to come around, but government and they're still doing their fear-mongering campaigns and all that. That's a part of the process until legalization hits. They got to get a grasp on everything and maintain some type of organization.
Let's talk about that transition with government then, and particularly with the government affairs. How has that evolved? Because now it's the first time that they're actually engaging stakeholders for conversation.
Yeah.
So where's that?
Okay, so it kind of started like last year in Toronto. So they had the licensing and standard committee meeting, and we all got to speak. So we all went up and had our say about why we think it's proper, and I voted for a private-public model in Toronto. So now I'm finding myself, the more I get exposure into the industry and speak more to the politico side of things, I notice that I'm getting invited to more tables, and their ears it's not falling on dead ears anymore. Right. We're doing a lot of work with the city of Hamilton, which is my hometown. Okay. They passed a motion to have me on the round tables to kind of help them regulate in Hamilton, which was the very first I've ever heard of, because to have a city sit down with a gray market, or however you want to classify us, dispensary, and get their expert opinions on it, on how regulation should happen, because they're not exactly quite happy with how Ontario is unfolding. That says a lot to me. Right. That's an in. that says that people are listening, that says that there's people that want to be educated. And I spent a lot of time, Jer, in this industry trying to educate people that just didn't want to be educated, and there's no point. They're not ready. That's like, you can't convince somebody to listen to something that they don't want to hear. So I educate the people that want to listen, I publicly speak about it, and whoever comes around, whoever doesn't, then pay no mind.
So let's give some context here. I mean, for the viewers at home, regulation will bring us some positive benefits as well.
Of course.
Superior quality, things like that. Get into what we're going to see come July.
You're going to see a lot of different things, right? You're going to see craft grows. You're going to see a private retail model. You're going to see a liquor store model. You're going to see people coming out with products that we never heard of. I'm seeing personal lubrication, infused beef jerkies. I'm seeing, bath bombs. You're going to see creative lounges coming up. You're going to see brands, you're going to see commercials, you're going to see job openings, you're going to see people getting educated, you're going to see it's going to be so quick and so fast, and it's going to be all these things that you didn't think could ever happen with cannabis are going to unfold, and it's quite impressive because you look back 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and I remember there was Blueberry, Willie's Wonder, and Northern Light strain, and your guy didn't have 15 kinds of strains. Nobody knew anything. You definitely never thought there'd be a storefront. You definitely didn't think I'd be sitting here with you speaking about it in a public format, raising awareness. And now we're in 2017 and the possibilities are endless.
No, absolutely. It's an exciting time, and I'm really excited to talk a little bit about what you guys had to go through in terms of learning from places like Colorado, Oregon, Washington State, looking towards our legalization.
Well, we didn't really follow too much of the American suit just because America and Canada, it's apples and oranges, right? They're only state legal, as in while we're going into federal. Now, what I've learned from different provinces and having licenses in one and then being completely outcasted in another province, I'm learning now that each jurisdiction is going to be drastically different than the next. What you think is going to happen in one province may not be the case. So you got to be able to morph your company province by province. It cannot just be MMJ Canada across the board one way. Ontario, if we do sneak our way in, Ontario is going to be regulated one way. BC is going to go another way. Saskatchewan's going to have their own twist. Alberta, and I've realized now that the key here is not jumping the gun. No more rushing. I think a lot of us, when Justin Trudeau made the announcement, we all did the same thing and went, let's do it. We're just going to open up forever. Well, that kind of backfired in Ontario. And I don't think anybody wants to relive the fight that we're going through there. It's fearful. It's challenging. It's hard mentally on you. So now we realize that the calculated moves moving forward are what we need to do best for MMJ Canada.
So quickly, let's talk about the Ontario model. I mean, for the people back home, it's an LCBO type model where it'll be similar to a liquor store.
Yes, the ORCR.
Right. We know what to expect come that. Do you think it'll adapt as time goes on?
Yeah, of course. Everything adapts, right? You know what I mean? Like yes, of course. Alcohol, they have craft breweries now. They have craft places where you can get wine. Now, I think there's just going to be certain stipulations, like a craft brewery cannot sell more than 6-packs or 12-packs. They can't sell 2-4s. So I think that you're going to be handcuffed on certain things. Do I think in Ontario that market will come? Yes. I do not believe that they would make a smart move, the Ontario government, by saying, this is a free-for-all, this is what we're going to do, just come on in. I think they needed to start with extremely tough regulations like this, where it's excluding majority, and then they need to slowly let people in. And I don't think the government gets enough credit. I think they just get hate on. They're pushing you out. No, they're scared. They got to do it right.
Yeah, absolutely. It has to be done right. Thanks, buddy. 2018 is going to be exciting.